Chapter 19. The War for Your Heart. Fear spreads, despair spreads, division spreads. This chapter explores emotional manipulation, engineered outrage, and the battle over human empathy, connection, and emotional sovereignty in an age of constant psychological pressure. Chapter 19. The War for Your Heart. Living in an inversion of that which grows the human spirit, and instead being funneled into reactive fear-based states, keeps us trapped in dense 3D vibration. That's the point of the trap, to keep you emotionally triggered, disoriented, despairing, because when you're in that state, you stop creating your reality and start reacting to theirs. How do you escape this matrix when the world around you seems to be seething with horrors beyond comprehension? How do you avoid falling into despair when evil parades itself proudly in front of your face? It starts with knowing this. The natural state of humanity is not war. It's not violence. It's not hatred. We've been lied to. Left to our own devices, we love each other. We seek connection. We partner up. We make families. We share food. We look after the neighborhood kids, whether they're ours or not. Human nature, when uncorrupted, is deeply communal and intrinsically good. That's why we have to be manipulated so viciously. The plan falls apart. Every division we've experienced, every bloodshed, every us versus them conflict has been engineered. We are continuously herded into artificial battles by forces that benefit from chaos. The formula is always the same: incite emotion, inflame identity, divide the people, and harvest the fear. Weaponized compassion. To see through the trap, sometimes we have to rewind the tape. You can't move forward in an unprogrammed way unless you're willing to admit how badly you've been lied to. Let's take the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. This isn't a statement of sides. It's a statement of the pattern. It's a headline war, a war staged in pixels, loops, and tweets. One moment we're told to pick a side. The next we're hit with dead children, burning cities, terrified mothers. Who benefits? Who profits? The media-industrial complex is never neutral. It's the biggest war machine of them all. They've been playing the game for decades, whipping up moral outrage, dangling human suffering to justify mass-scale military action. Remember Nahira al-Sabah? This is the Kuwaiti girl who claimed Iraqi soldiers were yanking babies out of incubators. That one speech helped ignite the Gulf War. Later, it was revealed she was the Kuwaiti ambassador's daughter, scripted, staged, and coached for the camera. Yet by the time the truth came out, the bombs had fallen. The damage was done. Public opinion had been hijacked. That's how the PSYOP works. Children have always been their favorite bait. World wars, foreign invasions, the manufactured climate agenda with the infamous Greta Thunberg. None of it gains traction without child imagery to soften your heart and open the gates of consent. Watch the film Wag the Dog. Not as satire, but as disclosure. It's a blueprint. Their ritual always ends the same way: bloodshed, carnage, trauma on loop. Why? Because this is an energetic war. They feed on loosh. They want your horror, your sorrow, and your grief. The more your frequency drops, the more they have to feast on. By now we should all understand. The lower our vibration, the more fuel they harvest. The way out isn't just resistance, it's refusal. A total refusal to feed the beast with our pain. When you see those headlines, those explosions, those sobbing children, remember, your vibration is a weapon. Your discernment is a shield. Your refusal to collapse into fear is a rebellion in and of itself. Once mass fear was generated through the threat of nuclear war. Now, new disasters are in motion. Rage across regions that were not fire-prone, inland tsunamis, disguised as migrants, hide in urban neighborhoods. Commercial planes fall from the sky, old parts, overlooked warnings, and a media that moves on in hours. Refineries explode, freight trains derail, spilling chemicals into water supplies. City grids flicker and fail. Through it all, the media spins its web. Distraction, distortion, division. The fear is curated. The panic is manufactured. The moment you stop asking why, you've taken the bait. What they want is panic, reactive rage, tribal violence. What we must offer instead is calm, conscious rebellion. Take action, build community, train your body, prepare, do it without fear. That's how we win this war, by refusing to become its pawns. Trust the vibe, not the spin. While debates and dialogue might nudge us toward truth, they rarely shatter illusions. For that, we need something deeper, something soul-sourced. Energetic leaning is a skill, one few of us were taught. It's when you stop outsourcing your discernment to headlines, politicians, or influencers and start listening to your inner barometer. It's when you learn to trust your instincts without apology. This is the rebel's gift, the ability to lean into a situation and feel the signal behind the noise. To do that, you must first silence the static. This means cutting through the emotional fog, the propaganda, and most of all, the projections of others. Even their good intentions can pull you off course. You must anchor into stillness, pull back from the chaos and enter neutrality. Let go of needing the world to confirm what you already sense. Step into your own knowing. This is not easy when the media floods your screen with carnage, when mobs are shouting, and when death threats fly like confetti, and everyone has a flag in one hand and a photo of a dead grandmother in the other. It's not easy to stay unaffected in the face of that kind of emotional drama. Nonetheless, that is exactly what is being asked of you. You must master the art of sacred detachment, not because you don't care, but because you care so much you refuse to let your heart be hijacked. You are not obligated to feel what they tell you to feel. You are not required to suffer on demand. Your compassion is not a leash. Your frequency is yours, and it's your responsibility to protect it. Refuse to play. As the chaos intensifies, we're not just being attacked, we're being challenged, provoked, and called up. The squeeze is on, and every event, every distortion, every fabricated crisis is a test of your discernment and a demand for your evolution. The timelines are compressing. The lies are louder. The karmic backlash is coming on more quickly than ever before. This is not punishment, it's opportunity. It's the soul's forge. Let's go back to a historic example, the war in Yugoslavia. Most people don't understand what happened there. For those who lived it or studied it honestly, it serves as one of the most obvious plays in the globalist handbook. How does it work? If you're a global puppet master, and you know certain people were nearly annihilated by a fascist regime a few decades ago, all you have to do is whisper into old wounds, stoke the pain, poke the memory, dangle just enough fear to reactivate generational trauma, and boom, you've awakened the fire. Suddenly, the targeted group, gripped by ancestral memory and desperate to survive, lashes out. The media seizes it, spins it, reframes it. Now, these people are the aggressors. Cue moral condemnation. Cue military response. Bombings, airstrikes, occupation. The pattern repeats. From the Balkans to the Middle East, from Central Africa to Southeast Asia, the playbook stays the same. You provoke, then you blame. You inflame, then you invade. You break the will of a sovereign people. You loot their land, rich in oil, lithium, gas, water, ports, sacred ground. You install puppets. You sign reconstruction contracts. You call it peacekeeping. And just like that, mission accomplished. It's always the same war, just a new border, a new flag, a new lie. Then, mass migration, wide open borders, refugee floods. These are not your tired, poor, huddled masses yearning to breathe free. These have been largely foreign, fighting-age men programmed with resentment and primed to detonate. Many of them hate the countries they've entered. Why wouldn't they? They've been conditioned to hate. They weren't invited to assimilate. They were shipped in to destabilize. The war isn't over there any longer. It's here. The radical act is this: step back, zoom out, peel yourself off the emotional wall, and reclaim your objectivity. That's where the power lives. It takes courage to unplug from the propaganda, to ask yourself hard questions, and to admit that both sides of a conflict are controlled. That's the level of lucidity we need now, not to numb ourselves, but to see clearly. Until we do, we will continue to be played. We are members of the same human family, deliberately fractured by centuries of divide and conquer programming. The system is global. The lies are old. Yet, so is our spirit. We've got to remember that. We're at a precipice, a razor's edge. If we don't stand together now as a species, not as tribes, not as flags, then we will fall apart together. There is no other option. Where does that leave us? Right here at the crossroads, with one choice: rise or repeat. That's it. No middle ground, no pause button, and no more stalling. You're being asked to evolve into the most crystalline, courageous version of yourself. You're being asked to stop giving your power to fear, to stop identifying with your programming and pretending you're small. Why is it all getting worse? Why is the pain and chaos amplifying? Because the alarm clock is going off. You're being shaken awake, spiritually, emotionally, and energetically. It's time to become who you came here to be. Not next year, not when things calm down. Now. If you meet the lesson right here, right now, it dissolves. The karmic load lifts. The storm passes. What if you ignore it, defer it, resist it? The lesson gets louder, sharper, more brutal. That's not cruelty. That's the law of soul evolution. Refuse to grow, and the pressure cooker will crank until you crack. Will we make it? Depends on who you mean by we. Some of us will, and some won't. That's the split. I don't know if everyone is going to awaken. I don't know if everyone will choose clarity over comfort or courage over obedience. What I do know is this: the ones who rise will carry the next higher wave of reality within them. For those who won't, the lessons will keep coming, harder and faster until something finally breaks through. Better that it be your illusions and not your spirit. Mind the minefield. Respect the laws of karma. We've talked about this. Karma isn't a punishment. It's a mirror. If you don't look into things and learn from what's staring back at you, it's going to hit harder. Why? Because you're meant to evolve. You're meant to break through, not stall out. The system knows this. That's why it throws candy-coated grenades at you like power, money, greed, and ego. The need to be right, the thrill of outrage, the seduction of identity politics. These are not harmless distractions. They're weapons of spiritual suppression. So is war. So is hating your neighbor. That's one of the most indicative traps of all. If you find yourself despising the guy across the street because of what channel he watches or who he voted for, congratulations, the program has succeeded. The real work? Sidestep the trap and grow anyway. Jane says, both sides of the camp have fallen hook, line, and sinker for the divide and conquer trap. They've walked right into it, and now they're busy feeding the fire. The dark side knows exactly what triggers each culture. They've studied us. Now they're using what they've learned. I respond, yes, exactly. They know how to push just the right buttons to get us attacking one another like wind-up toys. Jane says, because they created the program, they wrote the script. I say, that script is designed to override our natural instinct, which is to love. That's the truth. We love each other. Left alone without propaganda, without engineered fear, we do love each other. They had to write a whole multi-generational operating system to convince us otherwise. Jane says, because their game is to project their own darkness onto us, to trick us into mirroring it back and then call it human nature. That's not human nature. That's inversion. I say, it's the Hitler argument. Some people say he triggered rapid-fire spiritual growth and the chance to burn through karma at warp speed. I don't know if that's true, but I do know this. In every manufactured catastrophe, you'll find both devastation and awakening. It's all in how you respond. Jane answers, right. It's about contrast. Without contrast, there's no growth, no edge, no pressure. Just spiritual couch potatoes on a mountaintop eating mung beans while watching the sun rise. That's not why we came. We came here to experience vibrational contrast so we could rise into conscious awareness, not check out, not float above it all. I respond, we also came to grow into our own oneness with creation and the Creator, whatever name you give it. We had to do it from the mud, from the mess. That's where real evolution happens. Jane says, you can't evolve without emotion, without an emotional barometer. You need to feel your way through the distortion. That's how you develop discernment, through observation of what is. I say, because we do create our own reality. That's not some airy-fairy spiritual slogan. That's the law. Here's the mind bender, though. There are infinite realities. That can be a little overwhelming at first. It used to confuse me too. But now, I've seen too much. I've manifested too many things. I know reality is fluid, and I know we're active participants in shaping it. Jane says, the challenge is, what happens when you're creating peace and clarity and someone else is creating carnage? I say, exactly. What if my neighbor is slaughtered? Suddenly, I am part of that reality. Whether I like it or not, I'm in it. The only question is, how am I going to show up? Jane says, from love or from fear? Because anger's okay. It's part of the human experience. But it can't own you. I say, right. You move through it. Let it give rise to awareness, to new choices and real action, not just performative rage. Jane says, that's how it works. You feel it, you face it, and then you move differently in yourself, in your family, in your community. It ripples outward. I say, so the reality isn't just what's happening around you, it's how you respond to what's happening. That's the real test. Jane says, that is reality. Perfectly said. I say, sometimes the most radical thing you can do is refuse to participate in their game. Refuse to feed that monster. Just don't plug into the garbage. Jane says, that's what triggered me at the start of 2020. A lot of spiritual people I knew just checked out. It's all an illusion, they said. Meanwhile, I was fighting an energetic war 24/7, and they were sipping lattes by the beach. I say, now we see there are many roles. Some people are holding a peaceful frequency, but others, they're using that as an excuse to avoid the work. Jane says, they're laying grids, yes, they're holding space. Others are spiritually bypassing because they don't want to face their own fear. I say, it comes back to choice, to courage. You can't coast on past lives or good vibes anymore. You've got to choose your role. Jane says, I had to accept that. Not everyone's going to be a warrior. I didn't want their lectures either, not when they weren't in the arena. I say, the arena is here now. This isn't theoretical anymore. It's not a book club. It's the front line of human evolution. Karma going viral. COVID blew the lid off. It was a global Rorschach test, a karmic accelerator. Like every other mass trauma event, it exposed who was awake and who was still sleepwalking. For some, it was a soft nudge. For others, a spiritual gut punch. For many, it was full-on existential reckoning. The ones who refused to see it, they felt the ground shift under them. Because the world they thought was solid, safe, orderly, and predictable started cracking. That's karma. That's what happens when truth comes knocking and you pretend not to be home. Go back to the American Revolution. Speak out and you risked your life. Same thing now. If you're truly in the fight for humanity's freedom, then you've already had to answer this. Are you willing to risk everything? A lot of us already have. That's what it takes. Not just bumper sticker activism, real stakes. Even young parents with kids, especially them, need to find the moral courage to stand up and raise hell when things are wrong. You have to choose your role. Jane says, "That's what I keep saying. Everyone can step up, but not everyone has to be a warrior on camera. You don't have to lead the charge." I say, you don't have to be one of the doctors giving up their license to tell the truth. You don't have to be a whistleblower risking assassination. You don't have to be a firebrand. But you do have to choose. Sitting on the sidelines sipping oat milk while tyranny burns through your neighborhood? Not enough. We should all have metaphorical pitchforks in our hands by now. Those people who have been in power, they're not governors, they're invaders. This has been occupation. Unless we stop them, it's going to get a hell of a lot worse. The window is closing. Yes, this is war, not just spiritual, physical, energetic, and total. Most of the world is occupied. You think your country's safe? Think again. The system that owns you is invisible, but it's everywhere. The crux is that these aren't just bad people. They're not even people anymore. Maybe they were once. They've long since severed their link to humanity, to source, to soul. They are husks, predators, and they will not stop unless we stop them. Thank you for listening to this excerpt.